And I just want you to briefly explain what you do and your prior education.
Okay. So I've been in education for more than 15 years. I started off at an independent school setting, primary and secondary. I was very fortunate at the independent school to have major lead roles, literacy coordinator, primary coordinator, assistant principal roles. Then later on in life, when my daughter had started year 11, I thought I need to do something with my own life. And I thought I'll start my master's degree while she was doing her VCE. So we both started at the same time. My daughter was in year 11. I finished off my master's degree at that time. Unfortunately, we both couldn't graduate due to COVID. So it was all online. Oh, well. And then I moved into a government school.
Thank you so much for coming down.
Thank you.
Big Bad Harris in the background for setting this up for me. I appreciate it, and all the lovely people. But as we're talking, I thought the issue is student engagement at school. You're telling me otherwise.
I am. So this is only purely from my experience. I've had experience in the independent sector and public sector at the moment. The context we're talking about is primary school.
Yes.
And when we're talking about student engagement with Ahmad, the first thing that he said to me was, students are not connected to their teachers. I have to disagree respectfully for that, because there are some students who are extremely connected to school. However, we have other factors that unfortunately they can't attend school. This could be family concerns. It could be actually, how I would put that to you is a welfare issue.
Welfare.
So that can be many things. I feel that if we had a lot of resources at school, for example, allied health assigned to our schools, maybe our attendance data would actually rise, because we'll be able to source that information there and then for the parents and for the student, and then they can connect back to school.
Because
do we have that at the government schools at the moment? No, we don't. We do have a referral system. There are excellent programs at the moment that are running at public schools and independent schools. I'm sure there are. However, how do we engage all of our families and our students to the school? Because it's not only about, yes, you're right, definitely students and families have to feel connected to the school. There has to be an inclusive environment for our students at all times. And all school leaders and teachers will agree with me when I say this. I hope they do.
Yeah.
Right? Because we want to make sure that we are gaining our students, because we want to make sure that we're bringing up really resilient and independent children.
That's true.
How do we do that if we haven't made connections? You're right about engagement when it comes to teacher. If a student has a connection with their teacher, it's very special, definitely, and they'll be at school. However, how about the factors of, for example, not having any lunch and not sending your child to school?
Yeah.
Okay, that's one. So
That's
when I talk about welfare, that I'm actually talking about real life examples, okay? Or if we have a family circumstance where if there's family domestic violence, for example, children can't come to school.
Obviously, because of the violence that's happening at home.
Absolutely. Sometimes those older siblings or the younger siblings are taking care of each other. What happens if transport is an issue?
That's another one as well.
Yeah.
Can't catch,
Correct.
buses and stuff because there's no money.
I remember I had this one student, Ahmed, when I first started the public system, and our welfare coordinator who I work with, she's amazing at her job. I looked at our school data, and this particular student has never been to school. But when I had seen him and met him, he's amazing. He's got this amazing personality. He's bubbly. And I'm thinking, this student definitely can come to school. So where our school is, he's 3 blocks away. Of course, he can't walk that because we're on a main road. When I went to visit the family, there are so many factors of why that child is not attending school. So many.
A list.
Absolutely. There was a list from welfare to family concerns, so many. And who's going to be bringing him to school? That was the other issue. So there's about, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, about 7 siblings in the household with 5 other adults that were living at the house.
No.
And we're only talking about a standard 3-bedroom home. So what happens to that child? How do we support him? He wants to be at school. I'm guaranteeing you, if I was to look at his academic reports, he's actually quite bright and we can work on him. But what happens when he can't come? And he couldn't come to school.
because of the circumstances at home.
Correct. Correct.
How do you tackle that issue?
So what we did at first, we had a lot of parent meetings. We tried our best to collaborate with the family as much as we possibly can, bring up any kind of resource that's going to help them, set them up Orange Door, for example, and did the best that we can. We make a plan. The plan might last a couple of days. It falls through. Start again. So I think in this instant for us, we had to constantly persevere and say, okay, we've got to continue. We cannot stop. But at a point, you do stop because there's it comes to an end of the road. And when you're at the end of the road, there's no more resources you can actually outreach for this child.
Runs out.
So what happens then when they start year 7? This is when we're talking about the dropout numbers in year 7, year 8, year 9 is your critical years at school.
Very critical.
That's when the dropout happens because they've lost that engagement at school. I feel that if we can engage students in, let's say, from foundation up to grade 6 level, and they've got really good routines, really good structures, you continue that on. But the family, school, student, that partnership, that triangle that I'm talking about has to be evident. We have to be working together. Otherwise, you're not going to accomplish what you want to.
Yeah.
As a school leader, that is my first priority, is making sure that students are at school. But there's certain factors that don't allow us, not only about teacher connection. There's so many, like I just mentioned before.
Because it's a serious issue, because obviously myself being brought up in the northern suburbs, it's an issue I've been tackling because there's so many youngsters and it's so easy to point the fingers and say, look how silly this kid is and look how naughty he is. But what is the root cause that's allowing him to get to that point? There's mistakes and trauma and problems that are occurring in the background that are causing that. You know what I mean? It's like planting a lemon tree and waiting for it over the years, but then you don't realize it's been infested with all these infections and diseases, and then you decide, oh, why does the lemon taste weird? It's the same thing with the children.
Absolutely.
And I can't seem to understand, but now I'm starting to break it down a little bit by what you're saying is it's a bit from the family, it's a bit from the social life, it's a bit from school.
And like, for example, with school, I feel that like we were talking before, are all children academic? Absolutely not. But they've definitely got strengths. And I think we need to play on that strength. In our school system, are we missing lifestyle lessons for our children? We must be missing some certain gaps where we're not filling. And if we want to do that, we need to have a really broad perspective of what is a student's need. And like you said, there are families that come with trauma background. We have refugee families. How do you cater for the needs of those children who've actually witnessed war? And you're trying to teach them A, B, C, D here.
It's impossible.
Absolutely, because we need to see what is the need of that child. I feel it's very complex. All these layers, think of an onion that you're going to be peeling.
Serious issue.
Absolutely. And if we're going to do that, if we're going to be successful, we all have to work together. And I feel that the blame game has to shift because what happens, and this is very general what I'm saying, but what I'm saying is that, and a lot of people will maybe agree with me, is that when a student is disengaged, or we see the young crime at the moment, it's just escalating, okay? People are looking to blame someone. If we stop that and said, what's the cause of this? And everyone takes accountability and responsibility for the action of that child, maybe we might minimize the crime rate, maybe. Because it can't be just the government, it can't be just the school, it can't be just the parent. So we're missing something. Are we missing parent courses? I'm not sure. When I used to grow up, Ahmed, and you probably agree with me, I had very strict parents. We knew our boundaries. Yeah. We knew not to do this or that.
Kept us in line.
Absolutely.
Without a doubt, yeah.
Absolutely. Now are parents compensating for that because they were brought up in very strict environments, that they're not going to be that strict and they need a voice, which absolutely children need a voice. I've raised 2 children of my own. Of course, they need a voice. They need to be independent. However, are we compensating and not being strict enough with how they should be brought up in society? Is that what we're missing as a society? I'm not 100% sure because I see students fall through the gaps. And there's not really much you can do if you don't have the correct supports.
That's right. It goes back to the supports because it's very disappointing, isn't it? Like I was telling you, it's a nightmare. I'm really connected with the youth in my area, and I speak to them in 14, 15. And I was like, oh, what are you goals? I'm just dropping out of school.
Right.
What are you dropping out of school for? What's the plan? Oh, I'll figure out when I leave. It's disappointment.
Yes.
But then I look at them and they're full of rage and anger.
But what would that rage and anger, in your opinion, what is it? What do you see when you're speaking to them? Because I speak to primary school children. When I go to the high school for the transition, they're all very nervous. They're all very cute at that time, right? But then there is a blind spot that we're not identifying as such. But I have to say it has to be teamwork. I think all stakeholders of the child, of who's responsible for the child, has to be responsible.
Yeah. I think the biggest issue I realized, and I'll speak about myself, is actually having a connection with your parents.
Okay.
I feel like it's starting there. If you realize we loved hanging out with our friends when we were young, we loved trouble and drama and all that. It's because we got that love from our friends and that connection.
Okay.
But we didn't feel that connection with our parents. That's how I seen it, and that's how I felt. So that's why we're always out. Never wanted to be at home, because at home we had to do chores. We had to.
So there was a lot of
strict rules.
Right.
And the culture played a massive role.
Yeah.
But as soon as we walked out, we felt connected with our friends. But at the same time, that was bad because there was no one to keep us in line.
Right. So I'm going to agree with the parts that you said, because I was brought up in that environment as well. Very strict parents. They've come from Turkey at a very young age. Both parents are very dedicated to working, because they had this idea in their mind, my parents, they're going to move back to Turkey where they have their paid off house, for example. Education for my parents is extremely important. And my sister and I, we always had to succeed. There was no other option. However, saying that though, you're right. When I had my friendship group, there is so much more you were doing with your friends because your parents were working. Let's come to my generation. My generation, when we had our children, and I'll just speak on my experiences. When I had my children, I thought, I don't think I want to be that strict with my children, but we have to have open communication. So honesty, both children know honesty is extremely important. Talk to me about anything.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one example that just came to my mind. So both my children are in primary school, and my daughter came to me and said to me, she's in grade 6 and brother's in grade 5. Mum, we're going to go to the school disco. Yeah. And I thought, oh my goodness, but I'm not making it obvious that I'm having heart attacks at this moment. She's in the car, she's got the flyer, she's so excited. She goes, we're going, it's next Friday, we're going to the disco. She's thinking that's okay at that stage, which of course it's okay, it's a community disco.
Yeah.
Right? And I don't want to break their hearts at the moment. We're in the car, they're both excited. Get home, I'm thinking, how in the world am I going to say, I don't know if it's a good idea, because it's open to the whole community. Yeah. Even though the police officers and certain security is there, there's measures of security. I know it's open to a whole community. And they don't know everybody. They're very young at that stage, and no parents allowed. So, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday came. And my daughter, of course, has her dance choreography all set for the disco. My son is following in her footsteps at that time. They're ready. They got their best clothing on. They're off. And we're in the car now, and I'm driving. I'm like, okay, maybe I'll just sit and wait outside. I've got all these planned A, B, C, D for this, okay? We're driving up, and all of a sudden, my daughter sees the people that are walking through to the disco, okay? She looks at her brother. Oh, who are they? He goes, I don't know who they are. So a bit of fear is kicking in at this moment, right? And I'm not saying anything because I know now the ball's in my court.
Yeah.
And then they both decide they don't want to go to this disco because they thought that it's not going to be safe. And me, of course, because I want to be that cool mum at that time. You sure you don't want to go to this disco? I'm happy to sit outside. No, mum. We don't have to go. Yeah. That was game over for me there, but my heart was beating so fast. Not to say that the disco, there was a problem. There actually wasn't. It was me because I wasn't ready as a parent. Wow. So if we're talking about adjustments for our children, or if we're talking about transitions, like how you just said before, being friends and so on, I won't be able to understand how they were feeling at that time until I saw, I need to adjust myself to see where they are at. And, you know, times and times we've had many experiences without my own children plus my students. How do we then make these connections with our
That's
children?
the importance.
How do we have these honest, open conversations? Because at that time I couldn't say, I'm actually very scared. You shouldn't be at this disco. I couldn't say that because I knew that's going to break their heart at that time.
That's right.
And they're probably not going to understand me, thinking, what do you mean, Mum? There's police there. Everything's going to be fine. So I think if we're losing the communication with our children at a younger age and we're not connected and we don't know how they feel, we won't be able to get them when they're older.
I agree. Very true. I had what was his name? The big guy that we had on, Peter. So this guy, he deals with homeless and drug addicts, and dedicates his life to it. And I was talking to him, and he's like, parents should be talking to the children about important subjects. I'm like, what are them subjects? She goes, drugs, for instance. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah. She'll be able to talk to them about the dangers of drugs.
Yes.
And once you build that connection with them, even if they fall in a mistake, they can come and talk to you about it.
Ahmed, I'll tell you a personal story. So in our family, we've been dealing with drugs for a very long time, of course. We've had, you know, experiences of addiction and so on. It's been many years. And I thought to myself, if I'm raising my children, I'm the voice of my children at this stage. I need to make sure they understand what I think of drugs. Perfect. How does it impact our family? How does it impact everyone else? So and then important. If we are supporting, for example, a drug addict or an alcohol, it could be anything. It could be any addiction. We need to understand the why and how we're going to support each other, because not everyone's going to understand you.
Beautifully said.
Okay? So if people aren't going to understand you, you need to be up for that judgment. That's 100%. But you need to get the children ready for that at the same time. I think my lucky point for that would be is that the open communication, like you just said, because if you don't have that, if you don't have trust within your family, you will not have those communications open. It won't happen. You're going to come to a dead end at some point. And I think that your previous guest saying, yes, open communication, talk about the dangers and
talk
why.
About the addiction, even the addiction said. Talk about it, yeah. Why,
in our culture, you would agree, a lot of things are swept under the rug.
Exactly.
Agreeing with
he
me?
said the same. Okay. He said majority of the people that he's helping are Arabic, Turkish, that are just going under the radar. No one knows enough about them.
I'm going to make a very broad, general statement. I'm going to say every family is experiencing some sort of an addiction in our culture.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the Turkish and the Arabic community for a moment, okay? Because that's the closest to us right now. I wonder how many families can get together and really talk about the raw impacts that addiction has on families.
I know zero people that do that.
Because they're going to be judged. They're going to be judged as parents. They're going to be judged as a wife. They're going to be judged as a daughter and a son, or whatever you want to call it. But the judgment is real.
And who cops it? The children that are suffering.
Correct.
He was telling me an instance, a young fella that was going through a serious addiction with ketamine, and a young Arab brother. And he's trying to talk to the mum, and she's like, no, he's okay, he's okay. The guy has been in his room for a week.
He's not okay.
A week with a serious addiction to ketamine, losing his mind.
Yeah.
She doesn't even know the addiction he's going through. Why aren't you connecting to your children? I know that there's this culture thing that they've built upon, but we must learn to make adjustments.
So their fears kicked in. And when fear kicks in my opinion, it's the fear. Fear kicks in, and then you're not able to speak, because then you start thinking about, what did I do wrong as a parent? Why is my child using drugs? Why'd they go to drugs? There has to be a weakness in someone's life in order to find that fulfillment in drugs, alcohol, whatever you want to call it. Okay, but the addiction is there. When an addiction is going on for a long time, how many parents are in denial, do you think? A lot.
Yeah.
If we were to get the addiction at the start of it and call out the bad behavior, like, for example, I'm going to talk as young as a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old, a little boy hitting his mum. Let's call out that bad behavior there and then. And this has got nothing to do with the addiction, but what it does is it sets you up boundaries.
That's right.
Okay. Let's call out the bad behavior without feeling, oh, I'm actually going to lose friends. Why am I losing friends if I'm calling bad behavior? If you're supporting the addict, where's your supports?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Unless you've got a strong, tight family, you don't have supports out there.
And these youngsters, and I want to generally talk about the youngsters, it's the youngsters that are the problem at the moment.
Absolutely.
A young, say, a Koda or an Ahmed can't go to his father and tell him, I've got an addiction problem.
No.
Dad, I've fallen into an addiction problem.
No.
No way. You're copying and belting. And that's sad.
But are they aware that they're in an addiction? Are they aware of that? They're not. They think they've got under control because they're social users at that time.
Beautifully said.
That's the difference. Okay. Nothing will happen to me. I'm fine.
Yeah.
I can give it up whenever I want. Yeah. Is the mind frame I'm getting, and there are casual users. There definitely are. From childhood to adulthood, I'm sure we'll come across people who do it for like a party event or a social user.
But I feel like it all catches up.
Absolutely. And Ahmed, the other problem is the prescribed medication. Yeah. Why are we ignoring the prescribed medication? Because it's not a street drug.
It's even worse.
Because the doctors are prescribing this medication's okay, or is it a correct prescription? I'm not sure. But how many children have their hands on prescribed medicine at the moment?
Too much. I was talking to actually a few people about this, trying to tackle this issue. It's all the youngsters that are actually addicted to pharmaceuticals.
Correct.
Rather
they make
than
their
drugs.
own cocktails.
Yeah, it's disaster.
If you bring that into a high school setting, I'm not sure what age we're going to talk about. Let's just say high school setting at the moment.
I'll say the age of, I know people at the age of 13. I'm going to be real with you. Age of 13.
And if they're experimenting at that age, there's no parent support because they need to hide it from the parents. Where do these children go?
Yeah.
That's a major concern. And I think if we were to be open with our families and in the school environment at home, and if I need to bring that back to the primary school setting, if we had the strong connections, if we had the foundations were really laid out really well at the start of their, let's say, prep academic year, and these students are able to come in, talk about their problems, and we solve problems, we actually are able to communicate the parent. And we know that we're not going to get any, how can I say, a negative vibe from the parent, then we might be able to say, okay, we've got an open forum. We can actually speak to the parents and say, this is what I noticed. Or your child's not looking the best, or they have signs of A, B, C, D. If we can have these open communications. But what happens is if we do that, we need evidence.
Yeah.
Because it comes down to that. It
very
comes
true.
down to evidence.
It's very disappointing, and it's something that I really want to tackle on such a deep level, even go to the top and speak to people, because it's disappointing seeing some of these youngsters, like some of their clothes hasn't been washed for weeks, and they're going to school for this, and then they get bullied for smelling, but they're not the issue.
No.
And this young soul is being bullied and broken.
And the concern comes back to the parent. Right? But then the parent would put that blame onto the school. The school then does their own risk. However, what I was saying earlier, if the blame game had stopped and we actually addressed the situation, for example, unemployment is a very big problem with our young generation because they don't know the direction that they're going to. For example, if they're going to drop out of school, there's not really a plan in place.
Agree.
Okay. So if there's no plan in place and the parents aren't monitoring that, and they're okay for them to do, several casual jobs here and there, that's casual job idea then turns into a full-time job, maybe, or they're unemployed, one or the other.
That's correct.
It's one or the other, right? Now, if we were to really say, okay, what can we do for this child? It's going to come back to what I'm saying. We need to have the supports in place at a younger age. And I'm talking about primary level. If we had, for example, at the primary schools, an allied health professional, I'm going to make a school nurse, OTs, a psychologist assigned to a school where if a referral is done, they're there. Those bodies are there.
They're ready.
There is no waiting time. What would happen?
Yeah, change big time.
It will change.
because the
makes a
service is
massive
ready
change.
for them.
Absolutely. The service is ready. We don't have to be on the line, for example, for an hour for a service that we're waiting for and a referral. I remember calling certain agencies and I'm on the phone for about an hour. Imagine if that family is going through the crisis. Do you think that lady that's going through a domestic violence is going to be able to hold on for an hour? No.
No,
It's not going to happen.
it's by seconds.
By seconds, it's
Yeah,
done.
yeah.
So if we were to have these supports in place, what kind of magic can we create? Because we have dedicated teachers, we have dedicated school leaders, we have dedicated parents. Let's look at the bright side and the positives. I know there's parents that are not dedicated. There are teachers that are not dedicated. I totally agree with that. I'll probably comments would be, is everyone dedicated? No. But if we were to turn things around and say the supports are there, how different will my job look like?
Yeah.
Or when
Very
you're
true.
speaking to the young youth, if they had supports to go to and there's no waiting time, really good agencies, for example, you're waiting. There's certain centers, I'm not going to name any, but there's certain centers that I made contacts for students, for example, or parents. The waiting list is huge to get in. For a psychologist, for example, and another problem with these kind of services, can you afford it?
There you go. That's the question. People
Yeah.
are living paycheck.
Well, cost of living is so high right now. Even if you're working, for example, you will find it a struggle to continue to be seeing a psychologist, for example. Can't we do something about this?
I agree. Even these little youth centers, I had a criminologist on and we're talking about tackling issues.
Yeah.
He doesn't like him. He doesn't agree with youth centers. I'm like, why is that? He goes, it's a breeding ground for violence. He goes, no, they're just thrown in these youth centers, but no one's watching them.
No one's watching.
They're playing games, they're smoking, they're doing drugs, and
Yeah.
it's elevating the whole same cycle. And these are all youngsters.
Well, then we'll go back to restorative practices. If we know that these youth centers are not working, detention centers, jails, they're not working, what would the government or what would Australia look like if we're going to look on restorative practices? What is it going to look like? What can we offer them as a service? It's the whole mindset has to change because, for example, at home, if we do something wrong, there's a consequence, right?
That's right, yeah.
At school, if you've been involved in a fight, a lot of high school students would agree you're suspended.
Yeah.
Is the suspension working? Is it working? I really want to know the statistics.
I'll be honest with you, as a person, I know I went through problems when I was young. It becomes like a laugh. You tell your friends, I got suspended.
Right.
I don't think it helps the problem.
No, I don't agree as well. I don't agree that it's working because if we're constantly suspending, let's say high school, we hear of this a lot, right? That's the system they have. I'll give a student that I know, a very close student that I know, start school, a vape is found in the locker, suspension. The jacket, the blazer is not worn correctly, suspension. Where are we going with this?
Yeah, it's never going to end.
Absolutely. And then we talk about the students are dropping out of school. Yes, because like you said, they haven't made the connection at school. How about if we were to turn that mindset around?
Sit them down and ask the questions.
Because sometimes students don't want to be learning literacy, numeracy, whatever, science, whatever subjects are offered. Let's find out what they actually do need. If it's hands-on activities, for example, if it is, why aren't we sending them to trade at a younger age? And actually, they can do what they want to do.
Yeah, because there's a lot of students that don't want to be at school.
They don't.
And then it goes on to the whole issue of how do we make students engage and enjoy school more? What are some strategies, would you say?
For engagement levels, like we were mentioning at the start of our podcast, I think there's many factors. There's many factors here, but you need a school environment that suits your cultural needs, your values and mission, has to be aligned with the school's values and mission.
Plays a role.
Absolutely. Because if you're at a school where their values are not aligned with your family values, how far do you think you're going to go? If you're not getting along with the staff members, how far can you go? I always say this to parents. Make sure you go on a school tour, because not all school cannot be one size fits all. It's not possible. Demographics are different. And I know there's a zoning issue. I know you need to be going to the school that you're zoned in. I get that. However, let's think about the values that the school has, and let's think about the values that the parents have. Are we all sure that we're all on the same team? Do we want the same thing? Because the parent might want you to study. The teacher wants you to study. Does the child want to study?
And then, and then it goes back to the whole thing with connection
Correct.
with the parents.
Correct.
The children can't turn around and say to their parents, I don't want to study, because you're going to cop consequences
Yes.
for that.
So we go back to the communication, go back to parenting. I was actually saying to one of my colleagues, do we need parenting life skills? Do we need that? Do we need to say to parents so that they are aware of all the supports that are out there? Right now, currently, there's actually quite a lot of supports out there with councils, your local councils. Are they really going and knocking on the door and saying, this is what I need? Probably not.
No.
Probably not. So there's a missing gap. We have a jigsaw puzzle and we've got a missing gap. And that missing gap is actually reaching out to the correct people. And that's what we need to do.
Yeah.
And I think you can't do that on your own. You really need like an army of people. You know how they say it takes a village to raise a child?
Yeah.
That's actually one thing that I definitely believe in, because I think that as a community and as a society, we need to all support each other.
And tackle the real issues.
Absolutely.
Like you said, kind of come together in a way where we can sit down as parents and tackle issues that are happening. You know,
Correct.
why is the smoking vapes on a rise? Sit down with the children and explain the situations, the dangers of it. But there's none of this. It's just don't do it.
Don't do it.
Don't smoke vapes. Don't do that.
Let's be a bit more open then and have those real conversations. And if we need to say, let's put aside our own pride as parents and say, I'm going to actually listen. And I'm going to hear what you're saying, because you're seeking to understand. You're not listening just for the sake of it. You're really seeking to understand where the child is at. That takes a certain skill.
100%. And it's forming that connection. I remember discussing a lot of things with my family, my younger sisters, about young love.
Okay.
And you had to kind of teach them that you will experience this at a young age, because I went through it.
Yes.
And I formed this connection with them, because what's happening is a lot of people are experiencing these things and then they're falling in a very dark rabbit hole.
Right.
And it's never ending. And then they're becoming depressed and they can't speak to their parents about it because they're going to be judged.
Correct. Or if they marry young children, young adults are still judged, for example. If they're married late, they're still judged. Then we've got to think about, as a society, are we really allowing everyone to express themselves? As you know, right now, the crime rate, I'm pretty sure, is extremely high.
Yeah, it's higher than ever.
We all know what happened yesterday on the news. Everyone keeps on talking and talking and talking. But we need to see action. And the action doesn't just come from government level. It actually comes from the bottom. And I'm talking about families. Starts from your family to your community, because we're all connected at some stage.
That's right.
Right?
And the interesting thing is, we blame the youth, but the youth is a byproduct of us.
Absolutely. I can't blame the youth. I'm going to be very honest, and I hope I never have gone that path. But is it a problem? Yes. Are the youth, for example, responsible right now? No. But why? I think we need to constantly be looking at that why.
The issues.
Absolutely. Because when we look at, for example, the way we're raised, and then we're saying, okay, traditionally, parents had it under control, maybe many years back. At the moment, it doesn't look like parents have it under control. That's what it's looking like. I'm not saying parents aren't in control, but that's what it's looking like. Because the children are not following their parents' instructions. Why would they follow a teacher's instruction then, or a mentor or a coach? If the parent doesn't have it under control, why would they be following my instructions?
Do you feel like connecting with a teacher can play a role?
I do feel that it can play a role. I think teachers play a vital part in our upbringing because we all remember that special teacher. For example, I still remember my grade 6 teacher, for example. They made a massive impact in my life.
And just to cut through, why I say that, every young child just wants love. And
totally agree.
And I feel like
Totally
those who miss out on that from their family
Yeah.
try to seek it outside and they try to
Absolutely.
chase it.
Absolutely.
That's why, from my understanding, I've realized a lot of people go down they go down the road chasing love, but end up in violent places for the sake of love.
Because they settle.
Because they've been searching for it. Now, if
So it could be the wrong love.
Yes.
I have to say that.
Yes.
But if they feel that they're being loved or valued, they won't know the difference. For example, if it's not the correct love, they won't know because, like you said, they're really longing for that they do go ahead with that relationship, for example. Do they know that's the right relationship for them?
Yeah. And that's why I say that because a teacher play a role. If you have like a nice understanding, because I still remember some 15 years ago, some of the connections I had with my teachers. I couldn't wait to go to class, that specific class.
Absolutely.
Because that teacher was cool. He understood me.
And you have a chat.
Yes.
So you're opening up. There's disclosures that's okay because you know you're safe with that teacher. It's a safety place.
Bingo. Yeah. That's the word. Safe.
Safe. And then I feel that when you're talking about love, are we also missing empathy from there? Because bringing up empathetic students at the same time it's a big challenge at the moment because, again, your values have to align at all times. Otherwise, it can't happen religiously, culturally. These are massive. These are massive. Absolutely massive. You also know that there's school of thought in all the religions.
Yeah.
So how do we align all of that together? How confusing could it be for a young child if they haven't found that safe place as yet? How are we connecting? Yes, you're right. 100% teachers play a massive role. So do parents.
Yeah.
So do allied health. So do all of the government structures at the moment, because if we don't have all of those foundations set, it's not going to happen.
Very true.
Yeah. But if we're talking about on a surface level of if the child can come to school and they're going to make great connections, I believe that all schools are trying to do that. I'm not saying all teachers are fantastic. No. But what I'm saying is that the foundation of schools should still have that. Yeah. It's that raw feeling of feeling that you can trust someone. And that's a teacher, definitely. One of my closest friends, she's actually a school counselor, and we worked together for many years. And I remember the connections that we made with the students. They knew of our history because we're friends from grade 3 onwards. Having that kind of connection and then being able to, show the children this is what it's like.
Yeah.
Having these long-lasting friends it's a positive in your life, but at the same time, you need to balance that with family life.
That's right. Because
a child who doesn't have that strong family life is going to want that.
Yeah.
That's what they want. They want the family life. In my opinion, I know divorce rates are high. You can still make a very good family for a divorced family. You don't have to be married. You don't have to be married to be a good father and a good mother.
Both have to just play their role properly.
Absolutely. And I come back to respect and empathy because I feel that that's what's missing.
Yeah.
We need to instill these kind of values into our children.
100%. Because behind my house, there's a house that I've been living there for 20 years now. And I've seen these youngsters grow from this and just grow up and grow up and grow up. They're about 20 years old now. And I remember back in the days when they were younger, they used to come over the fence and be naughty. And my dad would give them lollies and they were just nice. But over the years, because they're very close, I could hear their father. Okay. And he's an extreme alcoholic. I was telling you about this. The violence, the bashing, the swearing, the environment they grew up in is just it's not normal. And I used to hear them, they're yelling. Now I look at them, druggies, completely lost. How do you judge a person like that? How do you point a finger and say, that's his fault? When I've seen them grow up from a young age to the people they are now.
Yeah.
No school, they dropped out in year 7.
Right.
And he goes back to exactly what you said. the parents. And that breaks my heart, that story, because now these two souls are lost.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very hard to get them.
Can I open up a paragraph?
Yes.
Okay. They've definitely gone through trauma, definitely seen quite a lot of hardship in life, okay, through physical violence to swearing, all that kind of stuff, right? Is that correct? Or
Yes.
these two boys have. Where is the family, the networking around them? Yes, the mum and dad are not doing a good job. Where are the grandparents? Where are the aunties, uncles? Where are they?
Yeah, true.
Okay.
That plays a role.
Because I have a sister, I have a brother,
Yeah.
I have a niece, I have nephews. What happens there? When is it going to be me saying, as an auntie, then it's my responsibility?
Yeah.
This is what I'm talking about, extended family. I get it. The family is not at a good place. I get that. We're all responsible for our own actions. I get that as well. But some people need that extra support.
Do you know where my challenge beyond that is? And the difficult part is the father could be an extreme aggressive person and he would say, don't get in my life.
Correct.
Don't involve your shit in my life. And I've heard that multiple times with people. That's terrifying.
Correct.
That's terrifying.
And
now you're speaking to my sister about our problems and it drags on.
I know.
It's very sad. It's such a sad reality. It breaks my heart.
And we have quite a lot of that.
Yep.
Right? There's family domestic violence is on the rise at the moment. Unemployment is on the rise. Cost of living is on the rise. I don't think COVID helped us at any time, especially when you had family violence and you're in the same house.
Oh, my sister said to me, she said straight up to me, she's like, you have no idea how difficult school was in COVID. I was like, what do you mean? She goes, half the teachers didn't care.
Yeah, I'm sure. Because they're dealing with their own family life.
Bingo.
There as well. And then I'm going to just come back to your example. So I'm going to give you an example. There were two brothers. They were brought up in the same environment you just said, okay? Father is extremely abusive and there's two boys. Age-wise, they're extremely young. I think they only had like 15 or 16 months apart as brothers. One brother was an alcoholic like his father. And they said to him, why are you an alcoholic? He said, because my dad was. They said to the other brother, extremely responsible, will not touch alcohol at all. Why don't you touch alcohol? Because my dad drank alcohol.
He had an understanding.
Yeah. So you have the same environment, but two different outcomes. Okay. Your mindset is extremely important. At some point in our lives, we all have to take responsibility.
Accountable. You have to be accountable. I agree with you there. Yes.
We can look as parents, give a bit of leadway and say, okay, my son's done this, my daughter's done this, I'll cover up, whatever.
Eventually you get to an age.
Eventually you're going to come to an age where absolutely not, you need to take responsibility for your own actions. And I think that's what we're both trying to say here, is that when you do have these kind of systems in place, okay, or family structures in place. For example, I have nieces, nephews, my own children, okay? My children are the eldest in the family. I'm hoping, and I say this with a lot of hope, that my daughter and son will take care of their cousins because I hope I raise them to do that.
Yeah.
I hope so.
To be leaders.
Absolutely. If they don't succeed, that's okay too. But I hope that they do. Otherwise, how would we have formed these connections? How would that happen? I don't know.
That's right.
It has to start from family. It has to start from home. Yes, you can extend it to school. Absolutely. I speak to families on a day-to-day basis. At the independent setting, we were talking about before, I never had an attendance issue, Ahmed, because they're paying parents. So those students are at school. But are there problems? Of course.
Yeah.
But there's other problems. Public school system, I started 5 years ago. The first thing I was dealt with was an attendance issue. I couldn't believe it. Some students were not accounted for 2 weeks. Where are they? So I'm happy to work with the families, but then we need to look at the problem, the why, right? And if we're looking at the connectedness, the self-connectedness, family connectedness, social inclusion, if we're looking at all of these aspects, it can't be just school. It can't be. Like your previous guest saying, there are other factors. 100% there are other
Yeah.
factors, and we need to come together as a community. Where do we start? And I feel school is a great place to
Yeah.
start. Maybe that's why schools are so important. A school is an excellent ground for you to come in and say, these are the supports I need. But does the schools have those supports?
Yeah. Because there's many sophisticated students. I had a lady that was working in juvenile,
Okay.
and she said there was some 10-year-old in there that were reading Shakespeare.
Wow.
Really like their minds were profound.
Mhm.
But
Because
their
there's still an
home,
education system
yeah,
in the juvenile
yeah,
system.
they were really
Absolutely.
smart, but
Absolutely.
their homes were just misery. And they wanted to stay in juvenile because they felt safer than home.
Yeah. Wow.
You know what I mean?
That says a lot, actually. That speaks volumes.
Yeah.
Because if that's safe, what is that child's mindset? What do they know as safe then? That's very, very sad for that student.
What age do you feel like students start to really pick up on stuff in primary, would you say?
I'm going to start when they're 3-year-olds.
Really?
Yeah, kindergarten. They know everything. It was really interesting. One day I had a prep student that I was going to do an interview and a testing for an independent system, and called them out, and they had I gave them a book they had to read. They're trying to open it, and I'm like, what is, they thought it was an iPad.
Oh my God.
At that age, if that's what you're doing and you know how to access the internet, the world's your oyster, I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Because what are those restrictions then? Is there a restriction for that child, Ahmed?
Yeah.
If they can
There's no
access
restriction.
it, they can access the internet at that age. They know what they're looking for. What age do you think they're starting? I would say 3-year-olds.
Yeah. All that kid needs is just a bit of a push, and he's gone.
Absolutely.
To another world.
And I think, look, when we talk about, families, and there are excellent families doing excellent jobs out there. We know that.
Yeah.
There are excellent parents. We need to make sure that flow is continuing.
Yeah.
Okay. In order to do that, though, I feel that if you're connected to your child at a very young age, do you have children, Ahmed?
No.
No children.
Sing.
But 2 children, and
I raised my 2 younger sisters though, so that played a role. Yeah.
That played.
And as you were going to say, connection was the only thing that made me win my sisters.
Beautiful. Same thing.
She said, she walked up to me once when she finished year 12. She walked up and she said, the reason I'm here is because I was able to talk to you with honesty. I could tell you anything.
Okay, I'm going to say this as a parent. I'm not an assistant principal at the moment. I'm definitely not a teacher. I'm going to have just my parent hat on. I can confidently say both my children will definitely communicate with me because they know if there's a problem, we're going to solve it. I hope they know that. I would actually love for you to ask them one day privately, please. I won't be heartbroken if they say no, but I can confidently say that will happen. Yeah. Because we've had some really challenging conversations, and I am not the perfect parent. Believe me, if I had to do it all over again, I'm sure there's lots of things that I will say I'll have to reevaluate this. But at the time, that's what I thought was the best thing to do, and that's what I did. And I always stand behind what I do. Okay, this is in my professional life and personal life.
I love how you said that. Challenging conversations.
We did. We had
so important.
Quite a lot of challenging conversations. But the conversations will always start with, if there is a problem, for example, I had to change that. I had to make that a turnover. So if we're only focusing on a problem, it's only negative. So the conversations later on, especially I can say as they grew up, when they're getting older and older, the conversations changed, Ahmed, because now we're really talking about serious stuff. Yeah. Right. Like when my daughter had met her boyfriend at the time, I knew they were going to get married. I knew it. I said, she's marrying this boy. I had to get ready. Yeah. So mentally, I have to what am I getting ready for? She's the one that's going to get married. Yeah. Right? But I knew it because you know your children. Yeah. I can say the same thing about my son. Okay. I will know as a parent but look, do we get it right all the time? No. I've had many, many fails Many fails. In my opinion, it's a fail. And I always question myself, what could I have done better? How could I have tackled that conversation with my
Aren't them
child?
fails good though?
The fails are good. Would I admit to the fails at the start? Probably
Yeah.
not, Ahmed. I probably didn't.
Yeah.
And I should have. I should have said, I failed here. I should have said it.
Mm.
And maybe that is your turning point. And I think as we got older with my children, and I'm getting older, I can say that to them.
Yeah.
And I can say, let's be open to constructive criticism. As a child and as a parent, what are we doing right and wrong? I'm not sure. But having those conversations are so important.
Yeah.
Like
It's very true.
it's so, and look, you're raising I've got 2 children. I'm raising them in the same environment, 2 different products.
Yeah.
And I'm
That's
sure
true.
you're the same as
Yeah.
well with your siblings.
Yeah.
You couldn't have all gone through the same path, the same
100%.
life journey. It's not going to happen. And then I say to myself, yes, because that's the character of my child.
Yeah. The criminologist said the same thing.
Mhm.
When I spoke to him about education, he goes, define education to me.
Define it.
And then he the way he explained it to me, he goes, education isn't just going to university.
Absolutely.
Education
agree.
begins with your character.
Absolutely.
And I was like, whoa,
Yes.
what are you talking about? He goes,
Absolutely.
yeah, character.
We spoke about streetwise,
Yeah.
and we spoke about academic and book smart children. Streetwise, what is better? I don't know. But what I can say to you is, whatever your child's character is, the best education for that child is to suit their needs. I knew my son, when he was born, they used to call my son Bob the Builder, because they knew he was going to be
Fascinated with
100%.
constructing.
And that's exactly what he followed. Has he changed his career in this period? Of course he has, because he started off so young. So he's able to explore a bit more. Whereas my daughter, she started off in education, led to law, because she needed to find her way of what she wants to do in life. Is that going to be the end point for her? Probably not.
Nah, it keeps changing.
Probably not. If I know her very well, I'm pretty sure that's not going to be the end product.
Yeah.
Because she's gonna explore a bit more. I can see that happening.
What would be a message from you to the youngsters that are in school?
Let's talk about primary level.
Let's start primary level first.
Speak with your teachers. Speak with your parents. If you can't speak with your parents, find your teacher. Let them be your middle person to have that communication.
Then it goes back to the problem. You're talking to the teacher about our problems, and it's that cycle again.
Right. So who's their safe person? A sister, a brother, a cousin, someone, but speak to someone. Because if we're not communicating, we're not going to get anywhere. My message would be to parents, actually, not to children. I just have my parent hat on at the moment, and my parent hat would say, I encourage every single parent to have really strong relationship with their children. Stop the consequences versus rewards. Stop all of that. Just compensate. Get to know your child. I'm sure there's a lot of parents who actually don't know their child and what they like and what they dislike, because they're not compensating.
Yeah.
There's no conversation time. And I'm going to say this as well. There's a lot of shift work parents at the moment. They're doing a lot of shift work. How does a nighttime parent do that during the day?
It's impossible.
Yeah. So we need to prioritize our family, because there's nothing more important than family.
Yeah.
Let's be honest now. Okay. You can have 10 degrees. You can have very rich homes. Doesn't matter.
But your child's going to be lost.
That's right. I highly recommend for all parents to build relationships with their children, because that child, even if we send a message to a child, they're too young to understand that message. They don't know what the resources are out there, but the parents can. They can make a turnaround, and the turnaround is from parents. Once we establish these really strong relationships and we know our children really well, it's a different mindset.
Yeah.
Because then the parent knows what they're after. The parent's conversation to me will be different. They'll be saying, Ozlem, this is what my child needs. What do I need to do that? It shouldn't be the other way around, where I'm telling the parent what the child needs.
Yes.
Okay. And most of the time, that's what's happening.
High school?
high school.
I feel like it's a big shift in high school once you hit year
High
7.
school, I just want to give all the teenagers a big hug
Yeah,
and say, let's start.
yeah.
It's not, don't think it's finished or it's too late. The idea that they come up with, oh, it's too late, I'm going to drop out anyway.
Yeah. Because I've realized the year 7s are always the naughtiest out of everyone.
I'm going to say year 9s.
Really?
Yeah. Year 9 boys.
That's what my wife says as well.
I think, Clinton, your wife is a teacher.
High school teacher.
Yeah.
Year 9s?
Year 9s.
Every
My
single
friend,
high school
year 9s.
teacher, year 9s.
What's your opinion? What does she say about this whole issue? Because she probably sees it a lot as
She
well.
does, but she deals with students that have come from overseas.
Mhm.
So either parents that can pay
Mhm.
or ones that have come from
Right.
war-torn locations. Beautiful,
Yep.
amazing students because they haven't developed in Australian society yet.
Mhm.
So they don't swear, they're very respectful.
Mhm.
When it comes to the year aspect, it's because what she's found and what I've also come to realize when I've seen teenagers, it's that's when they're developing more of their personality. Their
Mhm.
emotions are changing constantly.
Mhm.
They're at an age where they're able to understand a little bit more than what they did previously. Their parents are maybe giving them a little bit more flexibility. So they're now making choices in regards to their education, what direction. So all of this is happening at one stage. Some can understand that and grow from it.
Mhm.
A majority, from even what you've been able to see,
Mhm.
they don't know how to cope with it.
Mm.
So where do
So
they
the
turn?
coping mechanisms are not strong.
Yeah.
Yes. And it comes back down to the support systems as well, especially if we're talking about refugee families. I do have to agree with you. Refugee students that come down, they prioritize education because that's what they're coming down to Australia for, to
yeah.
have a better life, a better future. You're right. They're not exposed to our
Mm.
Australian society at that time.
Mm.
What happens then when they're merging into Australian society plus their own culture? How are they able to do that? How can they? How can they be adaptable to say, okay, I have a Turkish culture, let's say I'm Turkish, and I've got an Australian culture. My parents never understood my Australian culture at university Friday night pub.
Yeah.
Pooh, my dad's not going to understand that.
Yeah, nah.
Whereas all my Australian friends, that's what they did.
Yeah.
After work, Friday night is pub night.
Yeah.
Do we agree with that?
Yes.
Right? Are you saying to me in the Turkish culture that is considered okay with my dad? No. The answer is no. He won't understand that.
Yeah, I get
There's
you.
no way. There's no way he'll understand that. Even to this day, he won't understand that. But what I find is that refugee students, or let's say year 9, let's talk about year 9 boys especially, okay? Because the dropout at the moment is quite high.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. So why? Why is that happening though?
Mm.
It's happening.
That's a good question.
It's happening. I feel that they don't have enough direction in life.
Okay.
They don't know what they want. If we were to introduce life skills at primary school, what would that look like? Actually doing dishes, actually doing your bed, actually, day-to-day chores. What would it look if there's a lesson like that?
I like that.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's just not happening.
Implementing little stuff, even in
Yes.
high school. There's so many subjects people don't want to study.
Yes. Well, let's think about the homework booklet that we used to receive, maths, English. Let's say that homework booklet was only about lifestyle chores. How amazing would that be?
Yeah.
Yeah, because then there is no gender to chores. Everyone is living in that household.
Yeah.
Everyone needs to put in.
I love that.
They have to.
Sister finished year 12. She didn't know how to open a bank account.
A perfect example.
I swear to you.
Mm.
I have students that haven't written a resume. They don't know how to, they're finishing uni. How do you not get to that stage in life where you haven't written up a resume? Because maybe you didn't need to financially work, right?
Mhm.
But you finished your degree now, you're going to start.
Yeah. Should be taught.
Where do you start from writing resume?
Yeah.
What kind of life skills do you put on there if you haven't worked? Or if you don't understand establishing like how to run a household?
Very true. Very important.
If
Very
we don't know how to manage our finances at a young age, when our children are getting married, what are we teaching them?
Yeah.
How are they going to run a household on their own? How?
It's possible.
It's not possible to do. So do we teach that at school? Do we do that?
No.
And then at what age do you do that? And how do you do that? That's the other thing too. Would a lot of people find value in that? Because you and I might find the value in house chores. Because can you imagine my mum, not us doing house chores? That's not possible. You have to.
Yeah.
But do all families value that?
Yeah.
No.
So many important things that can be taught in school, but they're not.
Mhm.
Like that bank card thing. I'm like, sorry? She's like, yeah, I don't know. She's like, can you help me? I was like, "Yeah, sure, let's go. It was crazy.
But you
18.
say go because you know the process.
Yeah.
She doesn't know the process.
Yeah, she hasn't been taught.
Yeah. But when would she be taught that though?
Yeah.
Is that then maybe another teacher, a colleague of mine might say that's a parent issue?
Yeah.
Is it? I don't know. I'm not sure what the answer
What do
is.
you think? What do you think about that, Clinton?
Mm.
That's a good one.
Is it a parent issue, Clinton, or is it a school issue? Is it a hard one?
It's a life skill issue,
Isn't it?
isn't
It's
it?
a life skill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you were talking about in regards to roles, for instance. Years ago, the role was quite defined, which it's understandable. That's how it was previously. If you look at the how Muslims, Christians, that's how it was previously.
Yes.
The husband would go provide.
Yep.
The wife would stay at home, take care of everything. They had a lot of skills. You know, nowadays, both men and women need to work, so those roles can't be
Shifted.
as they were.
Correct. Because we've had a shift in society.
And people aren't ready for that because they've
They're
been
not.
taught and brought
Absolutely.
that way. So then there's the clash.
Imagine the cultural aspect to that, where the man is the provider, but then you've got a female who's actually earning more than the husband.
Yeah. Becomes a clash.
It's a clash.
Mm.
It is. There's so many aspects, like I was saying earlier on, that layer of the onion peeling is just getting deeper and deeper because it's not just one aspect of a child's schooling that we need to focus on. There's so many things that we need to focus on.
That's crazy.
But how?
Oh, it's just it's a cycle.
It is.
And there's so many little things that you need to just
It
fix.
is. If you were to say to me, what's your job description? All right. As an assistant principal, I coach teachers, explicit teach. I look at literacy and numeracy. I'll look at our data sets at school and say, okay, this is what we need to focus on. Create a team. We work towards that. I look at student well-being, student attendance. Very, most assistant principal work would do. But do you know, Ahmed, my day-to-day is not what I'm just saying it is. There's incidences you need to look at. There's welfare. You need to check in on welfare of the students and the staff member, regulating their emotions on a day-to-day basis, making sure that you're still motivated to continue to work because you are the leader of the school. Do you have that kind of room where you can show emotion? Probably not.
Probably not.
Because if you're breaking down, then what's happening to your team? So you always got this strong front, which a lot of school leaders do that very well. But apart from all of those things that I mentioned that I have to do in my role, there's another side to what I do on a day-to-day basis. Then I come home and I have children that needs to be taken care of.
Yeah.
So that's a teacher's normal life. Clinton, you would know from your own wife, right? She's tired when she comes home, but then home life is still continuing. Doesn't stop for us. Doesn't stop for any of us. Doesn't matter what our job is, what our job titles are. So I think we need as parents, compartmentalize things and say, this is work, this is school life, or this is my child's life. And you need to prioritize time.
And learn to connect with our children
Absolutely.
that are suffering in silence.
Absolutely.
And serious loneliness. Serious loneliness.
Yeah.
I went and visited the flats last week because I've been doing some work there.
What do you see there?
What an environment. I'm telling you, needles and children, the age of 13, 14, smoking and drugs. And he's looking at me, he's like, what are you looking at, man? I was like, whoa, like.
So where do you start from? Like if you're going to do community service to those students and to those children and you're actually going out there to visit, that in itself is an excellent act that you're doing because it shows so much care, so much compassion. Does that child read it as compassion? Or that you're there for support? They won't be able to read that.
Nah. I had to connect in my own way with him.
Yeah.
You know, it was like, I'm like, what's your favorite fighter? Because I knew he was very indulgent in violence. And he's like, yeah, Tyson. And he's like, yeah, cool. I'm like, you watching my man? And I connected in his own lingo. And within half an hour, he was opening about his life. And his dad's in jail now because his dad was bashing his mother on a very high level. Serious, like torturing her with...
So it's physical assault.
Yeah, serious assault. And within half an hour, he connected and he had opened up to me. And this is why another role I think is very important is to have lived experience people. People that have lived experience talk and connect because they connect so different to these people. Because if you get someone that's got a suit on and that's from an education, they are not going to, they're going to say, are you a Fed? Are you a Fed or are you a police officer? Why are you asking all these questions? They're not going to connect.
Right. Yeah. Because you want that same, the similarity. You want to be familiar with your environment. Definitely. I agree with that. Okay. However, how many people are doing that of what you're doing at the moment?
Very little.
Yeah. So if we're looking at our social workers, really understaffed police officers at the moment, social workers.
Social workers are doing an incredible job. Shout out to them.
Big shout out to them. DFFH workers, how understaffed.
Oh, they're really understaffed.
Very understaffed.
And very little power they have.
Yeah. So how can we make those changes where we do have enough of those people that actually care to make a change? And that's what we need. I think that's what we need to focus on. Like when you're looking at a certain school environment, the school's doing extremely well. The first thing I'm looking at is data, and their data sets are showing me that they're completely connected to school environment. That has to play a big role.
That's right.
It has to. So the same thing would be at the flats that it doesn't matter if it's a school environment or not, that child needs to belong somewhere.
Yeah.
They need to have that feeling of an inclusive environment where they're feeling safe. They feel this is my place. I'm not sure if they're feeling safe there. I don't know, but they're there. And if we're talking about drugs at a very young age, where is that child heading to?
Yeah. Destruction.
And
then it's easy for us, because we're humans, to judge.
And I wish and I hope that the judgment stops at some stage.
And then you get some people that say, oh, education eliminates that. Bullshit. There's some really educated people that are still judging.
100%. I have to agree.
I think judgment comes within you as a person.
As a person, definitely.
To accept people for their cultures, for their color of their skin, for their religion, and say what good and what benefit will I be for my community. I think that's the most important.
Absolutely. And how are we raising these independent and resilient children? How are we raising them? I think these are the kind of questions we need to ask ourselves. And as parents, like I said earlier, the parents play a major, major role. And Clinton says something very important before. He said the roles have changed.
Yeah.
So if the roles are changing, the child needs to know what their responsibility and what their role is.
That's right.
No matter what, there could be a lot of circumstances in the family that are changing, but if you're connected, that change is okay. They need to know that that's okay.
Yeah.
A family can be hit by unemployment, financial problems, a death in the family. There's so many things that can happen, but the most important thing is those roles are changing. The families are speaking about it. Then we might limit these kind of problems that we're having at the moment.
A message from you to the world.
Parents, please connect with your children. That's where we can start from, because that's what we can control. It's a controllable area. It's your family. Okay.
Very true.
We can control that. We can't control everything that's happening outside our environment, but the sooner we control what's happening in our own family and we have supports in place and children know that they can go to their families for support.
Let them talk.
Let them talk.
Let them talk. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And I just want you to briefly explain what you do and your prior education.
Okay. So I've been in education for more than 15 years. I started off at an independent school setting, primary and secondary. I was very fortunate at the independent school to have major lead roles, literacy coordinator, primary coordinator, assistant principal roles. Then later on in life, when my daughter had started year 11, I thought I need to do something with my own life. And I thought I'll start my master's degree while she was doing her VCE. So we both started at the same time. My daughter was in year 11. I finished off my master's degree at that time. Unfortunately, we both couldn't graduate due to COVID. So it was all online. Oh, well. And then I moved into a government school. I knew I need to be there. I knew it. I knew I needed to move and make a change. And my dad always says, you're not a tree, move.
I like that.
He says that all the time, right? So when I moved to the public setting, there were different factors that were going to be involved in my job, which I knew about, but I've always had that leading role in the school and one of the leaders. And I definitely have found my school, definitely. And the independent school was my school as well, definitely. But I needed the change at that time. And, you grow with what you're learning at that time as well. I feel like I'm a lifelong learner. I don't think I'll ever stop learning. Once 3 years ago, back then, I started tertiary teaching at the same time. I've been doing online facilitating for education course. That was a different ballgame because the age levels are so different. It's remote work. And I thought, this is in my area. I definitely love what I do there too. So if you said to me, is it primary, because I also talk secondary as well. Is it primary, secondary, or tertiary? I'm going to say all.
Yeah.
I really am. And I really mean it when I say that, because I don't feel I fit into just one year level.
That's good.
But my definite strength is definitely leading a school. And like I said, I do a lot of coaching with teachers, and I love that. I absolutely love that. And I think you need to form those really strong relationships, because you're having such challenging conversations during a coaching session. You need to make sure that you're coming across as strength-based.
Yes.
Let's not look at the weaknesses.
And lucky last, a message from you to teachers to connect differently with their students.
Take time to get to know your students. Make the time. When you're building your classroom settings at the start of the year, make time to get to know every single student, their background, their parents. Pick up that phone and say hello to the parents. Go outside and introduce yourself. There's nothing more valuable than that face-to-face meeting. There's nothing more valuable than the parent knowing, there's a teacher that cares about my child.
You form a connection.
Absolutely. Form those strong connections at the start. Be open to conversation at all times with your students. But the teacher has to do the research background on the children. They have to.
Amazing. Ozlem, you've been incredible. Thank you so much for joining on.
Me.
Oh, it was an absolute honor. I think we tackled some pretty good issues and important stuff. And we hope that, your message can benefit people,
I hope so.
And it's very sad. Like I said, it's very sad what's happening out there. It's my heart is out for these youngsters, because I'm telling you, we're moving in a direction where education is becoming less and less.
And if we change that negative to a positive, if we do put in the time and the effort, I feel that I'm hopeful. I'm very hopeful that we will reach really good potentials for students. I hope so.
Amazing.
We can only hope.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being on, Ozlem. And thank you for the man behind the curtains for setting it up for me. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.